Hi everyone, this is Dylan Golby. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this week's Gear Short. In this week's video, I'll be giving you my review of a filter kit by Freewell Filters that they are calling the world's first versatile magnetic VND. Regular viewers to this channel will know that I'm a photographer and not a videographer, so I usually work with square filters and a filter holder, as I often work with graduated filters as well. Typically this sort of screw-in variable ND is sort of squarely aimed at video creation, and this one certainly is as well, but there's definitely a place for it in the photographer's bag, especially if you don't want to carry around, a big square filter holder, or if you don't often work with graduated filters. So as always, Freewell has sent this to me for testing, but I am not being paid. I haven't been asked to say anything. These opinions are all my own. Freewell provides the kit in this nice little case that seems to be some sort of leatherette with some felt on the inside, and has a magnetic closure on it that's easy to open and fairly tight when closed, which is a good sign of things to come when we're talking about a magnetic filter kit. Now, once opened up, there is a little tab here that you can basically pull, and that will stagger all of the filters to make them easy to access. Now, it's a simple solution to a common problem that worked really well with cold fingers when I was down on Jeju Island. It makes for very easy access to those filters. Now, on top of that, Freewell has actually gone to the trouble of putting some additional memory card slots up here for SD and micro SD, so that's a nice little touch. So once opened up, in order here we have the base ring that screws into the lens with its magnetic filter cap, so that you can basically leave this attached to your lens in your bag. And then next we have the VND base filter, then the 6 to 9 stop VND, and the 2 to 5 stop VND. And then finally inside the base ring at the moment, I actually have the VND mist base filter. So basically by combining each of these, you're able to achieve anywhere from 1 to 9 stops of ND strength with or without the mist effect. And then on top of that, the mist filter can actually be used on its own. And also by flipping over those two VND filters, you get access to a CPL and a CPL with ND32 built in as well. And so I believe that's why Freewell is comfortably saying that they've created the first versatile magnetic kit. So let's take a look at how it all works. To get yourself started, you'll need to screw the base ring into your lens and then start adding filters on top of that. And the threads are very well machined, which is not always the case with filters and filter rings, so that's definitely good to see. Now, let's start with the basic VND options. So first we need to install the VND base glass into the base ring. Now, it's important here to make sure that the Freewell logo is facing outwards, and then line up the Freewell logo on the filter with the base ring. And once that's in, we've got a single stop of ND on the lens. Now we can add either the 2 to 5 stop or the 6 to 9 stop filter on top of that, depending on how much light we want to block. Now, again, both of these filters are double-sided, so it's important to check the writing on the filters. To get the VND functionality, you'll want to have the words 2 to 5 stop or 6 to 9 stop facing outwards. So then it's just a case of lining up the arrow and the letter A on the edge of the filter ring with the same characters on the base ring. And once those are lined up, the magnets will basically do their job, and all of the numbers will line up to tell you how much ND strength you're using. And there's some grooves in the filters that actually provide hard stops at each end, so you know what you're going to be getting. Now, this is all a bit confusing at first, but after a couple of uses, it really does become second nature, and it's a really well thought out system. The same process applies for the mist filter. So by replacing the VND base filter with the VND mist base filter, we get the mist effect and one stop of light reduction. Now, this filter can then also be combined with the two VND filters for a combination of mist and VND. This is likely to be most useful for video work, but if you're into, softening up your landscape images and making an even more sort of abstract rendering of something like moving water, then it could be a good solution for that type of work as well. Now, the effect isn't too strong unless you have, very strong or very direct light coming into the frame, as it's only a 1/8 strength mist filter, but it could be one of those things that's like a nice once in a while type of addition to your kit. The final functionality this kit offers is polarization, and this also comes in two flavors. So the first is a regular CPL where you lose just about 1 or 1.5 stops of light and you can reduce reflections. And the second is a CPL with an ND32 built in that allows you to reduce those reflections again, but also knock out about 5 stops of light. And these can be accessed by removing the base glass from the base ring and then mounting either of those two VND filters, but flipping them over. So as you can see, if we flip over the 6 to 9 stop filter, we can see the words ND32 CPL etched into the ring. And so when flipped over, these filters also don't have the same hard stops, so you don't need to align them anymore. They just become free spinning CPL filters. So I got a good chance to make use of this kit on my recent trip down to Jeju Island, and I found it to be a really useful addition to my bag. Now, I mainly used it on my GF 45 to 100mm lens on the GFX 100S, and I mostly made use of the VND functionality, but the ND32 CPL also came in handy for a couple of shots. Now, my first time using these filters was at Jongbang Falls in Sogwepo City. Now, this is a gorgeous waterfall that drops from a cliff directly into the ocean, and unfortunately it is a protected site and you can only get in there during opening hours, which makes for some quite poor light most days, and this day was definitely one of those. So I decided to go with a bit more of an abstract image rather than, try to take in that whole scene. For this image, I made use of the ND32 CPL filter, and this took me from a 60th of a second exposure out to a 2/3 of a second exposure, giving me the ability to blur the water from this huge waterfall. And it also helped me to reduce the glare on the shiny rocks and in the water around the waterfall, and basically focus your attention on that falling water itself. Now, just next door and in the same mid-morning light, I stopped by Tepojusangjolli, which is a set of sort of column-shaped volcanic cliffs that are formed by lava cooling very quickly in the ocean. They're quite amazing to look at, and again, I wish I had an overcast day, but I was lucky enough to be on holiday at a time like this, so yeah, no complaints on my end. Now, the waves were quite small when I visited, and so I was going to need all the help that I could get to sort of smooth out that water and focus you on the rock columns rather than the movement in the ocean there. And so using the 9-stop setting on the VND allowed me to get out to 6.5 seconds at f11, which was a good balance for blurring the water but still keeping a sharp image. Now, this shot has to be made from a wooden platform where dozens of people are constantly jostling for a spot to get a selfie with these cliffs, so it's just a case of setting up and waiting for a moment where everybody stopped to get their own shot, triggering my shutter and just hoping nobody moved. As a final example from Jeju Island, I wanted to share an image that I made with the 2 to 5 stop VND. Now, this shot was made pre-sunrise, and I wanted to get sort of a nice smoothness to the water without blurring the moving clouds too much. And also it was quite windy, so I had to worry about my tripod shaking during a long exposure as well, and I needed to hedge my bets with that and find just the right shutter speed. So in the end, with f11 and the 5-stop setting on the VND, I was able to get a shutter speed of 15 seconds, which worked out to be a pretty good balance for all of those things. The one thing that I did notice when I got these images home was that the 2 to 5 stop VND seemed to be just a hint warmer, maybe 100, 150 Kelvin warmer than my comparison images or the ones that I shot with the 6 to 9 stop filter. And it's a tiny difference that's really only visible if you sort of crank up the saturation. It's very easily corrected with the temperature slider in post, and honestly, if I wasn't trying to review these filters and nitpick, I wouldn't have even noticed it. Alright, so onto the mist filter. Now, as I mentioned, this is something that's likely to get more use in video work, but it is there, so I did want to do a few tests. And as a very obvious demonstration of its effect, here's a simple shot of a lamp that I keep in my office. Now, exciting subject, I know, but it does give a good example of the way that this filter works. So as you can see, bright lights glow quite a bit, and that results in sort of a reduction in contrast around them. Now, here's a bit more of a real-world example so that you can get an idea of how it might work out in the world. And as you can see, the streetlights and signs tend to glow just a little, but the effect is much more subtle with these sort of dimmer, far-away lights. Now, Freewell actually has a great example of how this works in video in their educational series about the filter set, so if you're interested in using it for video work and seeing the sort of subtle changes you can make, I'd recommend definitely checking that out. So I'll leave a link to that below as well. As you can hopefully see, this little package offers a lot of flexibility, and the quality of these filters is pretty fantastic. So the glass is extremely close to neutral, with only that 2 to 5 stop filter being just a touch warmer in my testing, but no big deal. Now, the one thing that honestly made this kit such a joy to use was just how easy it was to change out the filters. And although in the dark you do have to sort of worry about which way you've got the filters flipped and sort of where the logos are and things like that, quickly getting your phone, turning it on and using the light from that gives you enough light to sort of see where you need to put the filters. And again, it's not a big deal. So the only thing that I might ask for with these, and this is a personal thing, would be to have some square graduated filters with magnetic borders that could just be attached over the top. And at this point, Freewell suggests using a matte box if you do need to use graduated filters, but if you don't use graduated filters like I do, then it's never going to be an issue anyway. So all in all, I think this is a really great kit, and I have absolutely no reservations about recommending it for anyone who might need the sort of versatility that provides for either video or photography. And so, as always, thank you guys for watching, and I hope that it has been useful. See you guys in the next one. Cheers!